Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Deep Thoughts. And today we are here with Fruits Basket episode 18, What's Important is... ... Before we start talking about the episode though, I do want to say thank you to those of you who shared last week's video, at SassySimone125, at DramaLamas2, at Tenko Yai, at Miss Megs, at Dia Nicole21, and at Wally00. So thanks to all of you, and hey, if you would like to get your name shouted out in next week's video, then go ahead and share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and let me know that you did, and I'll shout you out in next week's. With that said though, everybody, we are going to jump into this week's episode, and oh my... get ready for tears. So the first couple weeks rather, of this season, I had a thought with Fruits Basket where I was almost worried, like, is it starting to slow down? I feel like it's not as, it doesn't, you know, feel like an emotional truck hitting me out of the blue anymore. And then the last couple weeks happened, and we are right back to where we were with Fruits Basket. It is suddenly super emotional again. Namely, we get introduced to the Tiger Zodiac, who I wrote in my notes just Tiger Attack, but also Attack. But yeah, we're introduced to Kisa in this episode, Kisa Soma, who I realized afterwards that, unless I'm maybe just not remembering correctly, I feel like it's been a while since we got introduced to a new Soma. Like, to me, I was like, oh yeah, we still have a number of Somas that we have to meet, so I was kind of happy to see a new member of the Soma family. And Kisa is really the emotional crutch of the episode. I don't know. She like at first I was like, okay, like so she's one angry tiger. Okay, I understand. That seems sort of like okay, like I'm not super impressed, which I'm always like, impress me, Fruits Basket, and then it's like, all right, you asked for it, and then I'm just like in my chair crying hysterically by the end, and I'm like, why did I ask for this? Every week, why do I ask for more Fruits Basket when all it does is destroy my soul? I mean, it does heal me too, but like, first it breaks my heart, then it puts it back together even better than it was, so I guess, you know, that's why. The whole Kisa storyline, the whole bullying angle is just... I think the reason why it's heartbreaking is because it's very real. Like, it's a very real... Like, everything in Fruits Basket feels like obviously the setup of Fruits Basket is very unrealistic. A bunch of, like, people who turn into animals of the Zodiac if they are hugged by the opposite gender or get sick. Obviously, that's not exactly realistic. But everything about the interpersonal connections between these characters feels so painfully real and genuine. And that is not more apparent than this week and last week, but like in this, we're not talking about last week. I already talked about last week. You could check it out, or you could check it out if you haven't already. Needless to say, last week was friggin' perfect. This week was also friggin' perfect. Like, just the way that they tackled bullying. And I think the reason why I like it so much is that it's not sugar-coated and it's not like phony, where people are like, well, you just stand up to the bullies, and like, no, that doesn't do anything. Or like, well, you should love yourself, which comes into play big time. And you know what? I'm just gonna talk about this here. The love yourself bit of the episode, where the teacher. That's my only gripe with the episode. I have one gripe with the episode, and that's the teacher's letter. I feel like a teacher would get fired if they told a student, if you hate yourself, like, people aren't gonna. How can you expect other people to like you? A teacher accusing a student of hating themselves. I feel like maybe it's just my Canadian coddled Catholic school brain, because yes, unfortunately I went to Catholic school, but I feel like a teacher would be fired for accusing a student of something like that, or at least be reprimanded. Like, I was like, there's no way a teacher would send that kind of letter. That seems like kind of a stretch. Maybe a teacher's assistant or a teacher in training who is not quite aware of boundaries yet. But yeah, I was like, no. Maybe I just have a different experience with schools, but yeah, I wouldn't expect a teacher to send that kind of letter. That was my only gripe with the episode. Singular one, and it wasn't even that bad because it set up an amazing conversation, one-sided conversation between Yuki, Haru, and Kisa, and it's mainly Yuki. And Yuki's perspective on the whole love yourself thing is so refreshingly genuine because it's actually real. Anybody can tell you, like, yeah, you gotta find the positives about yourself, and like, don't get me wrong, it is very sweet when people say that, but every time somebody says that, especially when I'm in a fit, or I'm like, when I'm I have really bad anxiety, like really bad. Like, I can hardly walk down the street sometimes without like panicking. I don't do well in crowds. I don't do well amongst other people. It really freaks me out. And when people say, like, when I get down on myself because of that, and I hear people say stuff like, oh, well, you need to love yourself, I understand it's coming from a good place and that they're trying to be positive, but every time they say it, I want to punch them in the face because, like, it doesn't solve anything. When I hear that, it just drives me insane because, like, I get that, like, you're trying to be nice to that other person, but it's not realistic to say, like, well, if you tell yourself that you love yourself, it's like, no. It's false. It feels phony when you do that. Yeah, it's good to find the positives in everything, and I try to do that. I live a pretty optimistic life. I try to find the positives in myself, and I try to accept the negative. I try to, embrace positive, accept negative. But it's also not something easily tackled alone. And it's only when you feel somebody else's love, like when somebody else loves you in spite of your flaws, it's much easier to build yourself back up. Yuki saying that, obviously in reference to Toru, and the fact that he says, like, and whenever you're feeling down, she'll always be here. I was like, oh my god. I feel like that's how most people feel about Fruits Basket. Like, whenever you're feeling down, Fruits Basket's always gonna be there. But that to me is 10 times more genuine than, oh, well, like the whole, like, self-help, like, guru nonsense of like, oh, well, you just gotta find the positives about yourself. Like, no, sometimes you, like, this is why you need other people. Like, even someone like me who's very antisocial, very like anxiety riddled, when I'm down, I turn to someone who's like a friend of mine. And I'm not really a social person, but when I'm really down, I know that in that kind of situation, I have people who have my back, and with their help, I can build myself back up. And sometimes you need somebody to accept the negative about you in order to help you build yourself back up. I think Yuki is doing that with Toru. I think Toru helped Kisa to do that. Sometimes you just need to get away for a little bit, like Kisa staying with Shigure and everybody. Just like, because clearly her mom is not about to give up on her, but she did need space. Like, she was maybe reaching a breaking point and she needed space, and sometimes that's good too. And I feel like that, like the whole love yourself bullying aspect of this episode, it, like, I don't know if you can tell, but it kind of spoke to me a little bit, and it really got me. Again, like, I'm having sort of a rough week or two, and I guess I just needed to unwind because this whole day I've just been like embracing media. I got emotional during Dr. Stone of all things. I got emotional during my playthrough of Fire Emblem. I am not even halfway done yet. I think I'm a little less than halfway done Fire Emblem, and now and I got emotional there at a certain moment that I will not spoil, and now I'm all emotional over Fruits Basket. But at least with Fruits Basket, I kind of knew it was coming. The Yuki parallels in particular kind of shock me, like getting less about like the emotional aspect of the show, more about the actual narrative of the show. The Yuki parallels interest me because I am curious, like, it's to me, it's weird, right? Because at first I was like, oh, the Yuki Toru ship going strong, but then I was like, you know what, it's not even really about the ship in this case. It's just about the character growth for Yuki. I think that impressed me most. Like, don't get me wrong, the ship is cute, but it's Yuki as a character, and that's saying something for me. You guys know I'm like a great, like a class S shipper, right? Like, I ship everything. But so for me to say, like, it was less about the ship for me and more about the character, that's saying something. And Yuki's character growth in this episode, as well as Kisa's. Like, you know, obviously I'm a little bit more tethered to Yuki, and so seeing Yuki embrace not only the future title of class president, which I appreciated, or not class president, I think student body president. President of the student body. Seeing him embrace that, and also like knowing that him saying like, one day I'll have to face my weakness and try to face it head on, and he's clearly talking about Akito, but who I was like, oh, I'm glad you weren't in this episode. Every time I see your face, you got a punchable face. But I was like, yeah, okay. I appreciated the character growth for Yuki, just even the willingness to be. That's another thing about this episode that I think it goes hand in hand with the love yourself element, but in fact I think that's how you like I think that's the overall message, really, is like allowing other people to love you, like having other people love you for both your good and bad qualities, and allowing yourself to be negative, like allowing yourself to be weak in front of other people, like that, because like once you're vulnerable enough to be like, well, vulnerable around other people, you're able to be more honest with yourself, and then you can start to love yourself. Once you're able to be open to your friends and family, then you're able to build yourself. And I feel like that element to Yuki's character has grown exponentially over the series, but it really shines in this episode. And even for a character who we only met in this one episode, Yuki, Kisa really grew on me to the point where, like, when she was like walking into school, I'm like, yeah, go get him, Kisa, you got this. Like, I was so like, yeah, like, over this character I've known for like all of like 20 minutes. I was like, yeah, she's gonna go get this. I felt like Mushu. I felt like Mushu from Mulan.
That little baby off to destroy people.
Only she's not going to fight them, just, you know, be a part of her class again. I mean, she's not Kyo. I don't think she's gonna solve her problem by kicking it. But yeah, everybody, those are gonna be my thoughts on Fruits Basket episode 18, and I'm proud to say that Fruits Basket, and I'm sure people are gonna be annoyed with me, I'm trying not to hand them out like candy, but what can you do? This week's getting another grade of A+. I'm sorry, I was trying to be critical, and like I have a new little like rubric that I'm like, okay, like a show is like split up against like I split up a show amongst like characters and story and art and animation and sound and music, and I was like trying to like be more critical about it, being like, okay, does it actually, like, is it actually an A+? And yeah, yes it is. Before we go though, I do have to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier, and as you can see, we have shaken things up. There are new members in the T Squadron, and I'm going to tell you now the new members of the Earl Grey tier: Calvin Atkinson, Crowbar of Irony, Dominic, Urza, No for Nothing, Maria Teresa, Mirth Mouser, Nye, Omner Garamond, Opinionated Slime, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Soma Stan, Tristan, and Veridon. Thank you guys for your continued support over on Patreon. If you too want to be a part of the Patreon and check out our exclusive Discord, go ahead and check out the first link in the description. Genuine thank you. Like, this is a goal that I've had for a little while now. I've always had YouTube as a hobby, but it was only like maybe last year that I decided, like, maybe not even last year. I think it was like beginning of this year that I was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna attempt to make my hobby, my little passion project, into something that can sustain me. And your generosity is obviously, like, I literally couldn't even attempt to try this without you. So thank you very much. Not to get too sentimental, but yeah, thank you very much. But that's gonna do it for today's video. So if you guys enjoyed, then you've probably been on the internet long enough to know what to do already. So I ain't gonna tell you, but I will say that it is appreciated. And if you're feeling stressed out after today's episode of Fruits Basket, then by all means, you go have yourself a warm cup of tea. And I will talk to you all again real soon.